It's going to be a great one, man. The man I'm going to talk to, man, those of some of you who know already, this man is a great man, man. He's been everything, man. He was an ambassador. He's been in public service. He's been with the CTO. He's been everywhere. And he's still in the system, man. I want to have a chat with him, man, because there are so many things that I need to ask him that I'm sure you want me to ask him. Put your hands together. Show some love for the man, Mr. Ekwow Spio-Garbrah.
Thank you so much.
Welcome to the show, man.
Thank you.
Oh, wow. Finally, I've gotten you on this seat, man.
It's a hot seat, but I'll try to make it cool. Make it cool.
Not too hot, not too hot. Oh, and well, today we all, you know, said final goodbyes to Mr. Arthur. Yeah.
His Excellency.
Yeah, His Excellency. Yeah, yeah.
Former Vice President.
Yeah. And when I was introduced, I didn't say honorable, didn't.
Ekwow is my first name.
Ekwow is your first name.
I said that to Parliament when I was being vetted.
Really?
They have all these titles. How shall we call it? I said, I don't need titles. Just call me Ekwow. That's what my friends call me.
So I'm okay. I'm my friend.
Fine. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Ekwow is in the house, man. Put your hands together one more time. So we're going to get straight to it, man.
Sure.
We're going to get straight to it. Two things that have been going on. Some people say you are going to be running for president.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, you are.
Very much so, yes.
Fantastic.
I started that journey in 2006. I'm sure most Ghanaians know that. I contested.
No, we'll go there.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, some people say, no, he couldn't be because, is it K2 North or South? You declared your support for former President Mahama. So they are like, what?
People like to misrepresent facts. And secondly, maybe these days I speak in parables. I congratulated President Mahama for supporting the unity works and even leading the unity works, which will help the NDC to win the 2020 elections.
Okay.
That was the phrase. But because I linked him and the unity works to 2020, people assumed that I meant I wanted him to win 2020 for us. But he himself has not indicated that he wants to be a candidate. He may be a candidate and he may not be a candidate. And even if he wants to be a candidate, he hasn't said that so anyway. And I have said this for more than a year. So that was
okay. So you're just congratulating him for the unity works?
Yeah, people think you must attack an opponent. So if you're not attacking your opponent and you are being gracious and respectful,
we are with the opponent.
You're either working with him or you're supporting him or something like that. But that's just different strategies in political campaigning.
Okay.
The man has been the president of this republic beyond being an NDC president. So even if I was talking about President Kufuor or Nana Akufo-Addo, I'll speak about them in reasonably respectful terms. It doesn't mean I cannot criticize them. But in the case of President Mahama, he was our president. So was President Rawlings. So you're not likely to hear me criticizing President Rawlings publicly. But in any case, so I congratulated him for supporting and leading the unity works, which I said I expect will help NDC to win the 2020 elections.
Okay.
And people translated unity works.
So that's what it means.
Okay. I didn't say I wasn't going to be a flag bearer candidate. I didn't say you should become a flag bearer candidate. So people can always misinterpret it. But there are those, of course, who wish maybe I were not a candidate and he were the sole candidate, if at all he wants to be a candidate. So different people will have different desires.
Are the ones who wish that he will be a candidate also wishing that you would be vice? Because that has come up.
There'll be some who may believe that way. There'll be some who will say that, especially as you're saying, because today we said goodbye to our former president, and so there's, in theory, in their minds, a vacancy for the position of president, of vice president. But the actual vacancy is for the position of president.
Okay.
That is what is vacant in NDC.
Okay.
There's no NDC procedure for appointing a vice president ahead of a flag bearership contest. A person must win the NDC flag bearership contest to even have the power or the capacity to negotiate with anybody or to invite them to be their vice president. So you cannot offer vice presidency except if you are a candidate. If you want to be a candidate, then maybe we can offer it to you here.
Oh, I can be vice?
Oh yeah, you can be vice.
You heard it here first, man. I can be vice.
It will be a wonderful partnership.
Yeah.
But in theory, you see, actually in practice, constitutionally, the flag-bearer, after he has won a race, must bring his or her candidates to the National Council of Elders and to the National Executive Committee for a discussion and a debate as to whether that person or a set of people, depending on what the person does, are the right persons for the position.
Okay.
It's not one person's sole decision.
Yeah. Were you shocked by the margins of NDC loss? Because it was remarkable.
Yeah, it was more than we would have expected. I mean, over the last maybe 12 or so years, or at least the last 3 or 4 elections, to the best of my recollection, the margin has always been 1% or less. Since I think even at Mills versus Kufuor in 2000. So to win by a margin of almost 10 percentage points was very much larger than anyone would have imagined. And when it turned out, from what we've heard and seen, that about 1 million people who didn't vote were mostly NDC members who chose not to vote either for NPP or for their own candidates. That's really where the challenge is. And so as we go into 2020, a key issue for all of us who are part of the NDC leadership or who are aspiring to lead the party is how do we identify these 1 million people? How do we get to understand their concerns? How do we address them? How do we bring them back into the voting booth to vote? And that is why if the former president, for example, is interested in coming, that's one of the issues that would need to be addressed. Because it was while he was a candidate that these 1 million people did not vote.
Yeah. And force you to hazard a guess, do you think the former president will throw his hat in?
I wish I were a soothsayer, but I've done many jobs, but soothsaying and sorcery
part of it.
have not been part of my skill set, so I prefer to wait and see what happens. But all I can assure all those who are concerned, because there's all kinds of misinformation going on and people saying all kinds of things, is that I will be a candidate.
Now, talking about being a candidate and looking ahead at the competition, you know, we've had this tradition in Ghana. Every party is allowed 2 terms.
Correct.
You know, now wanting to be a candidate of a party that's out of power after 2 terms practically, and MP has just come in, and this is just the first term. This is the 2 years. How confident are you of?
Well, the fact is that President Rawlings said serve 2 terms, and President Kufuor also served 2 terms. But the unfortunate premature death of President Atta Mills is what introduced the possible 1-term mindset into the minds of people. So he did not serve his 2 terms. And I think that also contributed, beyond the fact that the NDC had served 2 terms, to President Mahama himself being given only 1 term. Because people have got into their minds the possibility of a 1-term president. So we've had a 1-term president, Mills, who didn't even finish his 1 term, a 1-term President Mahama, and we are going to have also a 1-term Nana Akufo-Addo. That's what the slogan in NDC, which I thought you'd have heard by now, when I say NPP, you say 1 term. When I say MPP, you say 1 term. When I say Akufo-Addo, you say 1 term. When I say Akufo-Addo, you say 1 term. That's
the slogan? That's the NDC slogan?
When you say NDC, they say we are coming back. NDC, we are coming back. It's in addition to the Yezua, Yeza, and the Hey Jobodo and all that. Those things don't mean much to people. But what I've just said has direct meaning. So when you use that slogan, people can relate to it.
So
NPP 1 term, NDC we are coming back. NPP 1 term, it's being said all over in our constituencies and our branches. When they start their meetings, they start it with these slogans.
And so very, very confident?
Well, the confidence has to be how we organize ourselves. I'm not one of those who feel that we will take over power based on MPP's failures. There are people who are led into that, area of, you can be lured into it and to think that, well, MPP have failed because, one, there are all these allegations of corruption, $20,000 to see the president, $100,000 to sit by him at dinner, $5 million if you want a contract, according to Jantichi and so forth. So then there's a lot of corruption going on. One,
haven't they been sort of refuted?
Fuel, recycling, high cost of living, everything has exploded in price. The Swami and the Cocoa and Pay and Abosokai spare parts dealers, talk to them. They are crying like nobody's business. All the cars coming in, spare parts coming in, are up 40, 50, 60%, 100% in some cases. Fuel prices have gone up 3, 4, 5 times, numerous times. So they say they are reducing the price, but it goes up anyway. So people are experiencing shops, all the prices in shops have gone up 20, 30, 40% in many cases. And the new taxes that the government is going to impose following the recent budget statement by the finance minister will make matters worse, because now instead of a 17.5 value-added tax for which a businessman can deduct his input costs from his output costs and save some money, they are going to have only 12.5% as VAT, and the other 5%, which represents the National Health Insurance and the Ghana Education Trust Fund, will be flat 2.5% each, making 5% flat payments. So the businessmen will not be able to get, and women will not be able to get any withholding and input taxes back. And that's how VAT works. If you remember, I was the chairman of the Public Education Committee for the reintroduction of the VAT after Ghanaians had supposedly rejected it in 1995. When I became minister in 1997, Minister of Communications, and President Mahama then was my deputy. The two of us worked together with Setekwe, who was then at the Ghana Revenue Authority, not yet the Minister of Finance, and many others, Kwame Pepra, Minister of Finance, to educate Ghanaians about why value-added tax was a good tax. You remember, the MPP actually gave the impression that VAT was bad. Wachi prices, chokogari prices, furniture prices, everything was going to explode in price. So Kumi Prekun, Siemi Prekun, Wiemi Prekun were demonstrations led by our current president. Now, if people wanted to also demonstrate against some of these new taxes, when the NPP came into power claiming they were going to reduce taxation altogether, reduce the cost of living, and reduce the burden on parents and families, it's the opposite that is happening. So now you are even being told by the finance minister that, in his opinion, and that seems to be an opinion different from his government's, parents who want to pay the fees of their children should consider doing so. I don't know how they're going to do it under the current straight-jacketed approach that the government has put in place. But that statement from a finance minister simply points out to the fact that the NPP government did not think through the full implications of the free HSS policy before they brought it. And a colleague of yours on Hard Talk, I think Sanda Vanoka, put it straight to our cabinet president when he was then campaigning, that Mr. Akufo-Addo, you want to bring free SHS to Ghana. How much is it going to cost, Mr. President candidate? Akufo-Addo said, oh, no, I can't tell you now. I have to go to Ghana and go and tell them. Okay, so he came to Ghana, and people asked him repeatedly, how much is free SHS going to cost? They avoided that question altogether. Give us other slogans: one district, one factory, one village, one dam, one banku, one tilapia, one seamstress, one sewing machine, all those things, until people voted for them. Only to find out that
speaking of Nkoye,
yes, sir.
Yeah, realistically, I mean, it's rough. I mean, times are rough. Even as I know,
contracts have not been paid for years.
Yeah,
millions of.
My question is this:
yes,
how much of it being rough is part of the global economic crisis, and how much can you attribute to the doorstep of government? Because it seems generally rough.
At the end of the day, all governments are not given an easy ride. It's a difficult global situation at any time if you're a developing country. Africa is worth only 2% of the global economy. 2%. That's Africa. And Ghana is only one of 54 countries in Africa. So we are 0.00 something percent of the global economy in GDP terms. So it's like a small fish, you know, swimming in a big sea of sharks and whales and all kinds of bigger fish, like the United States and China, who want to take more of the global resources away from you. So at any point in time, if you make it sound as if it's an easy thing, yaba free SHS, oh, you'll be yaba say and so. That is how MPP sold themselves. And because NDC was not as good, in my opinion, as sloganeering as they were, and people bought the slogans, now the reality has faced them. And you come in the first year, the current finance minister has been the most endowed financially than any finance minister in the last maybe 30 years. Because the first thing they did was to put a cap on the statutory funds, like Get Fund, NHIS, IL, Tourist Funds, Road Fund, where the money was supposed to go by law straight into the funds. Only 25% is going into those funds, and 75% is available to the finance minister to spend literally as he wishes, according to whatever budgets have been proposed. Other finance ministers did not have it so good. Whether MPP finance ministers, Wiredu and all those, you know, Osafo and others, or even NDC ministers. So this current finance minister has had it really good. And of course, the bond markets are also there. Ghana still has a very good relative credit rating in bond markets in terms of its discipline and in terms of its capacity and ability to pay, and the general image of the country, which is not an image forged only by the NPP government, by all governments. And as a result of it, it makes it relatively easy to get money, but at relatively high cost. 8-9% for bonds in the international market is much higher than some other developing countries can get. They can get 4-5%, etc. And so we have a situation where the difficulties in the economy are really mostly locally managed, mostly locally determined. It's not because gold prices are at a historical low. It's not because cocoa prices are at a historical low. And indeed, petroleum prices have moved from 40-50%, $50 a barrel to $70+ a barrel plus. And Ghana, from oil exporting point of view, is benefiting from those price increases. But it's the management of expectations. That is the challenge of every political leader. You throw out the expectations, and people don't expect you to perform. If you don't throw out excessive expectations, they may not expect you to perform. So, for example, under the NDC, I didn't hear Ghanaians saying they want 200 new senior community schools. But we knew they needed more. So we could have promised, say, 50 senior community schools, or maybe 100. That way, if you overachieve it, then you are doing well. But if you promise 200 and you only deliver 100, then people think you have under-delivered. So these are issues for every political leader as to how you want. Countries have Ministry of Transportation. You want to promise or overpromise, and you may overpromise in order to win, and maybe they're happy to just win for 4 years and grab and loot and do whatever it is they are doing, and then hand over a weak economy to the next government. I don't know whether that is their agenda, but certainly Nkoye is a serious problem across the board, and it's based mainly on their decisions. Who told the president to go and appoint 110 ministers? Who told him to create a Ministry of Aviation? You've been to many countries in the world. Do you think Britain has a Ministry of Aviation? United Kingdom, where there are over 1,000 planes flying in the air. United States has over 10,000 planes flying in the air at any time. They don't have a Ministry of Aviation. It doesn't exist. All countries have Ministry of Transportation. Because transportation, by definition, is a multimodal means of moving things around. The shipping lines, the cargo from the planes, the railway lines, and the trucks must all be coordinated. So when the plane arrives with a container, 40-foot container, 20-foot container, whatever it is, or the ships dock with those containers, they can move around seamlessly. But if you chop up the transportation ministry into Ministry of Aviation, when you don't even have a plane, and the worst part for MPP is that they killed Ghana Airways, an airline that we had, and which was the pride of Africa. They mismanaged it, ran it from the Flagstaff House, in those days, the castle, with the chief of staff as the de facto chief executive officer, signing checks for Ghana Airways, sold the headquarters of the airline, sold all the bungalows, so that even if you want to start Ghana Airways today, it doesn't have a headquarters, it doesn't have bungalows, and the bungalows were sold for very cheap, less than 70,000, 80,000 cedis for a whole bungalow. These are bungalows that today are in the millions of cedis in value, or even then. You sold the landing rights. Those are the most valuable assets of an airline. The right to land at Heathrow Airport, the right to land at Robertsfield Airport in Liberia, the right to land at Abuja or Lagos Airport, etc., JFK. You sold those landing rights. Nobody even knows where that money went. So how do we start a new airline? And yet Ghana, which was the black star of Africa, when Nkrumah helped to give birth to our independence, is expected by many other African countries to take the lead. We used to have 22 ships, Black Star Line. We're out of business. And there are countries like Ethiopia who don't even have a seaport, but which have more than 20 ships, national ships. And we don't have one single national ship. And so all the shipping going up and down, we're not making any money from the ships.
Is this a result of, like you said, our general management style, or as a nation? Could all of this be put at the doorstep of one party because they are in power?
No, not at all. It's all of us over the last 60 years. And I'm sorry that from my experience as a public servant, because I decided to serve people as my life's vocation, whether I'm serving them internationally, as I did at the World Bank IFC, at the African Development Bank, the Commonwealth Telecoms, or domestically, whether being a church CEO or being a university president or being a minister. My life vocation has let me serve people and let any blessings that God gives me, let me be a blessing to others. So that's what I have lived my life. And my appreciation of public service, that most people don't go into public service or into politics with the public's interest at heart. That is the bottom line. And you cannot, as Shakespeare said, you cannot read the mind's construction in the face. So it's difficult looking at anybody's face to determine what is really in their hearts. It's only when they perform, then hopefully you can tell from their performance whether they really mean what sometimes they say or they don't.
I'm going to take a short break. When we come back, I want to find out from you, what do you think is the cause of this? Why do we have that psyche that the public service is for profit? and not for serving. But we're going to take a break and we'll come back.
Thank you very much.
Stick around, folk. We have the Honorable Spio-Garbrah in the house, and we will be right back.
The KSM Show.